Test 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Ok, ça fonctionne. Et salut à tous et bienvenue sur cette suite de stream de GameMaker Studio 2. Du coup c'est pour essayer d'apprendre le logiciel, essayer de créer un petit jeu. Donc là on est à la vidéo 4 sur 8. Allez, du coup je la lance de suite. Hop là.
Hello everyone, welcome to part 4. This time we're going to be looking at creating a background for our game so we don't have to just
Petit
sit
tuto
with
en
this
anglais par
boring
contre.
blank rectangle anymore. And we're going to look at how you can expand your room to be bigger than just the default 1024 by 768, and also make a camera that follows the player object around the room, okay? This part of the tutorial is actually completely identical for the coding and the drag and drop versions of this particular series. We're just going to be working within the IDE, and there's no actual logic changes that need to be made. So this part is exactly the same if you're following along with the drag and drop tutorial, or if you're following along with the code tutorial, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to quickly create some new resources. We're going to create the tiles that we're actually going to use for the background. So I'm going to right click in sprites and hit create, and you'll notice if you're coming from GameMaker 1.x, we're not creating a background resource, okay? That resource is completely obsolete, it doesn't exist in GameMaker Studio 2. All images are just sprites now, and then we define that sprite as a tile set. So I'm going to create this sprite, I'm going to call it SPR_background, and then I'll show you the image I'm going to import just from our tutorial resources. Not any of these individual tiles by themselves, but this collection of all the tiles, okay? This particular image, tile 2 for me, importing sprite, yes. Click that.
Ok, donc du coup, il va dans Sprite, il fait créer un truc. SPR, background. Après il fait importer. Prends celui-là, il fait 8.
And then you can see our lovely tile set. It's very important when you're creating a tile set to leave the top left square completely blank, okay? You notice this is just transparent up here, and each of these tiles is 128 by 128. They can be whatever size you want as long as they're uniform, but just make sure the top left is blank. Origin point and so on doesn't matter for this because we're going to use it as a tile set, which you'll see in a minute. So let's close down that now and right click in tile sets and hit create, okay? And we'll create our first tile set. I'm going to call it TIL_background because again it's just going to be the background of our room. Set the sprite to be SPR_background, the one we just made.
Ok. Aucun sprite, il prend ça. Après, il ça, il fait tile, background. Il fait entrer.
And you can see that image appears with a grid over the top of it. Now let's change that from being 16 by 16 by default to 128 by 128, and you can see
Voilà.
as I did that, the grid adjusted to match, okay, the tile width and tile height I set. And you can see the grid shows us where our tiles are there. And you can see the top left doesn't even have a box because that always has to be left blank because of how it works. internally. Okay, so now we have a tile set. Okay, we've defined a tile set, that's all we need to do. There's lots of other options in here for doing cool stuff like building brushes and animated tiles and auto tiling sets, but those will be covered in different tutorials later on. Okay, so we can close this for now and come to our room editor. Okay, those will be covered in, there's lots of other options in here for doing cool stuff like building brushes and animated tiles and auto tiling sets, but those will be covered in different tutorials later on. Okay, so we can close this for now. And come to our room editor. Okay, so back in here. Now we need a tile layer to actually place some of these tiles. You can have as many of these as you want, but we're just going to use the one by clicking this button here that says create new tile layer. And you see as we do that, a new window over here appears as part of the room editor to actually allow us to select tiles that we wish to place. But first of all, we need to move this layer down below our instance layers because we don't want the background to appear over the top of them. Okay, so make sure it's just down under here. Let's rename it. Let's call it layer underscore background. I'll do for now. And where it says over here no tile set, click this button and select the tile set that we just made, and you see it pops up and you can select the individual that we just. And where it says over here no tile set, click this button and select the tile set that we just made, and you see it pops up and you can select the individual tiles. So with just this middle tile selected, in fact I'm just going to speed this up now while I just click and draw the tiles over the room. Okay, super simple. Feel free. To pause the video while you do it yourself.
Super simple.
But yeah, you literally just click on a thing, drag it around to add the tiles. So now you've done that, if we run the game, you'll notice we don't just have that sort of boring black empty void anymore. We now actually have a bit of an arena to actually fight in. You'll notice I can just walk straight over these tiles and outside the room and everything like that. That's because we haven't written any logic or interactivity to actually allow us to or rather to force the
Alors, du coup, après je fais run le game. je fonce dedans, ça reset. Sortir de l'écran. Ok, c'est bon, ça fonctionne. Ok, c'est bon.
Player character to stay in the bounds of the room, but that's something we'll worry about at a later date. So go ahead and close that now. What we're going to do is actually make this room bigger, okay? We're going to stretch it, make it double in size. So over here at the bottom, you may, like underneath the layer properties, which we can actually minimize, you can find the room properties window, okay? And this is where you have all the different settings to do with this specific room, and right at the top here you can see width and height. So change width from 1024, which it is by default, to 2048. And you can see that's now doubled the game room. In width, okay? If we were to change the height, it would do the same thing. Okay, I've kept it exactly double so that we have the exact same number of 128 by 128 grid in here, but you can make it whatever size you particularly want if you're using different size tiles or what have you. But this will do for us for now. Now I'm just gonna also, actually before I do anything else, I'm gonna run the game now just to show you what's gonna happen if we run a game of this size. So as you can see, it's created a giant window that's actually wider than our screen. My screen here is 1920 pixels wide, and the room is 2048, so it's actually bigger than my screen, which is not what we want. So what we want to do instead is have it so we create a camera that focuses entirely on where the player is, so we can have a window that's still reasonably sized, but allow us to explore a larger room than necessarily our screen can show all at once, okay? So how do we do that? Let's close the game down now. And first of all...
Ok, donc quand on lance... On peut toujours sortir de l'écran, du coup... Plus grand. Comme lui, plus grand que mon écran. Allez, tac...
Before I do that, I'm just going to fill out the rest of these tiles so that this room looks correct. Simple as that. And then over here back in the room...
Ok.
room settings.
Ok, du coup je vais lancer... Ok, nickel.
Room settings window where it says room views. Unfold this if it's not already unfolded. Click enable views, and then where it says view 0 here, if that's not already unfolded, unfold that and select view visible. Okay, once you've done those two things, you'll see a big white rectangle appear over a default space of 1024 by 768, which was our original default room size as well. What this does is it creates a camera. If you've not set any of these up, GameMaker does what it just did before and assumes your room size is the size you want the viewport to be. But if we've defined a view in the first room of our game, it will create the room, create the window at that size. Okay, so we only want the window to be 1024 by 768 and to initially cover this area of space where the player is. But we want it to also move when the player moves off the edge of the screen and allow the camera to actually follow the player around the game world. Now you can do that sort of stuff with code and logic and interactivity as well, but there's a very neat built-in feature here called object following, okay, where in view 0 we can set this view to always follow obj_player, so it'll always try and keep instances of this object inside this view by moving the view to wherever they are. And you can also set a horizontal border and vertical border, which will determine how close the player needs to be to the edge of this view before the view will start scrolling to match its new location. 32 by 32 is pretty small, so we're going to increase that to 128 by 128, and just leave the speeds at -1, which basically means they the view will scroll instantly as opposed to X number of pixels per frame at maximum. We want it to move instantly, so it always definitely keeps the player in the view. So if we run the game now, I've just pressed F5 to do that, and I move to the edge of the screen, you see the view moves along with me, but it doesn't move outside the edge of the room. You'll notice I can move outside the edge of the room, nothing's stopping that, but your view will not by default move outside the edge of your room borders, no matter what object following properties you set.
Ok.
Okay, and that's that. So this has just been a simple introduction to backgrounds, tile sets, rooms, and views, all at a basic level. Next time we'll be looking at text and how you can draw text to the screen using objects and logic and interactivity. I'll catch you guys then. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Hello everybody and welcome back.
Ok, donc vidéo 5 maintenant sur 8.
Back to part 5 of our beginner tutorial series. So in this part, what we're going to be doing is looking at how to draw text to the screen. There's a huge number of reasons you might want to draw text to the screen during a game. The context we're going to use is we're just going to draw the score. So we're going to create a scoring mechanism whereby every time you kill one of these enemies, you get, say, like 5 points, and we'll tally the points up and display them at the top of the screen. So the first thing we're going to do is create an object that's going to track our current score and is also going to control drawing it onto the screen. Okay, so I'm going to right click on objects and hit create, which will bring us back to our workspace, and create a blank object for us. And get rid of the room editor for now, we don't need that there. And I'm going to call this obj_score. Now, normally when we create an object, we would assign a sprite to it, but this is going to be an invisible object that's just going to manage some stuff for us in the background. It's just going to manage the score our player has at any time and just draw that to the screen, so it doesn't need to have a sprite of its own. Okay, so I'm going to add an event. I'm going to add the create event. So just when this object is made for the first time, get rid of that line of code, and I'm just going to write in here the score equals 0. And we've been through variables before. Okay, I've just created a new variable called the score and set it to equal 0. So as far as our game is concerned, after this create event runs at least, the word the score is equivalent to the number 0, and we can manipulate that and do all kinds of things with it. Okay, but before we control like adding stuff to the score and so on, we're just going to create the logic by which we actually draw that score to the screen. So in events here, I'm going to go down to draw. Yeah, and just there's a lot of different draw events, but we just want the basic draw event. Okay, when you create a draw event, it overwrites what basically every object has a default draw event where it will draw itself to the screen. Okay, it basically just performs this function called draw self. So if your object doesn't have a draw event, this basically is its draw event. Okay, it will just do this one line of code by itself without you having to tell it to, and it will draw itself to the screen wherever it is at its particular rotation and angle, and color blending and so on and so forth. But you can create your own draw event if you want to control those things yourself. Obviously in this particular object, I mean, we don't even have a sprite to draw. We don't want to draw a sprite, but what we do want to do is draw our text to the screen. So this is the same event we would use to do that. Any drawing stuff you ever want to do, any rendering to the screen, you always have to do in one of the draw events. Okay, you can't do it in the step event or anything like that. It has to be in the draw event. It's similar to the step event in that it happens once every frame, but it's dedicated to drawing stuff for the object. Okay. The first thing we want to do is we want to gather a couple of coordinates. We want to find the coordinates for sort of the top center of the screen at any point in time. And because we set up views in the last tutorial, that view can move around the screen and it can be different at different times. So we can't just give it a coordinate in the room, like, I don't know, if it was like 1024, it'd be like 512 into the room for half of it. We need to work out dynamically on the fly whereabouts our view is in the room, and work out what coordinates we need. So to do that, I'm going to use what's called a temporary variable. Okay, I'm going to create one by typing the word var. So any variable that you create using this function here, var, disappears at the end of the event. Okay, so like you make a variable temporarily, do some stuff with it, and then you clear it from the memory at the end of the event. Okay, it's just a way of keeping things clean. So I'm going to make a var, and I'm going to call it cx. Okay, so that's going to be our camera's x position. And in order to get that, I'm going to set it to equal, just the same way as we did a variable before. We just typed a word and then typed equal. We do the same thing, only this time we put var in front of it. Okay, so we're going to do cx equals camera underscore get underscore view underscore x. Okay, and then open bracket, view underscore camera 0. Okay, so this grabs the camera ID of the camera that's automatically created for the view that we set up when we created a view last time in the previous tutorial. Okay, and it sticks it into this function, camera get view x, which means it's going to look at this camera, work out where it currently is in the room, where its x position is, and send that x coordinate to this variable. So that variable now, that word, means wherever our camera currently is on the x-axis, the horizontal axis. So now we just do the same thing for the vertical axis and do var cy equals camera underscore get view underscore y. Again, view underscore camera 0 semicolon. Okay, so that just gets the y coordinate. And now the last thing we want is the width of the camera, okay, in the room, which we already kind of know is 1024. So I could just type var cw equals 1024. But because like we want to set it up so that we're able to change the width of our camera if, well, I don't know, we wanted to make it bigger or smaller or whatever later on, we don't then want to have to come back and keep changing this number all the time. Okay, so we can just use another function just to work out dynamically what our camera width is at any point in time. So let's say camera, so get view width view camera 0, just the same. Okay, that's square brackets you have to use on the end of this when typing this 0. Okay, because you can have multiple views, multiple cameras, so You need to signify which one. You do that with square brackets as opposed to the usual curly brackets. Okay. So after all that fussing about with variables, we can now actually draw the text to the screen. There's only actually one line of code we need right away, although we'll add a bit more in a little bit. Draw underscore text, as you might imagine, and then what we want to do, we need to provide it with, and you can't really see, let me bring this up here. There we go, so you can actually see what this function requires. It needs an x coordinate, a y coordinate, and the text that you actually want to draw. Okay, and those coordinates refer to the room. Okay, in the draw event, so it refers to a specific place in the room. So the specific place in the room is going to be based on these variables, based on where our camera is currently pointing. So cx is going to be our x coordinate, which is the current x position of the camera, plus the camera's width divided by 2. So by adding half the camera, we're going to draw it like theoretically in the middle of the screen, okay? Because it's wherever the top left of the camera is, that's our cx, plus half of the width of the camera gives us the middle. And then type a comma, you can see this moves at the bottom to show we're now typing in the y coordinate. The y coordinate is just going to be cy, so it's because it's just the top, wherever the top coordinate of the camera is. Plus say 25, because we don't want to draw it right at the top, we'll just bring it down a little bit. So about 25 pixels into the screen. Then type string, open brackets, and then this allows us, what this does, I mean we could just type like an actual string here, so we could type hello world, and if we were to run that it would draw hello world at the top of the screen. But what we're going to do is we're going to type string as a function, which turns yellow as functions do, to allow us to provide a variable, and then the game will turn that variable into a text string that can be drawn onto the screen. So we're going to type the score, which as we know currently is 0, but because that's a number at the moment, the game doesn't recognize it as a string or as a piece of text that can be drawn to the screen. So we have to put it into the string function in order to do that. Then close the brackets fully, stick a semicolon on the end, and we are done with our score object for now. Before we go and plonk this in the game, we'll alter the enemy object so that it actually adds numbers to our score variable, so we can actually see it working. So let's go to object underscore enemy, and just in the step event now where we kill the enemy, when we say if hit points are less than or equal to 0, instance destroy, just open that out into these curly braces just so we can add more stuff in here than just the one line, just as we've done before. And before destroying the instance, we want to say with obj underscore score, the score equals the score plus 5. Now, what does with mean? Okay, with allows me to provide the name of another object, so it's the object we made a minute ago, object underscore score, and perform the following code with that object. So rather than, as I say, when I wrote instance destroy here, I'm referring to obj underscore enemy. Okay, I'm telling this object to destroy itself. But if I were to type, say, with object player in here, this would destroy the player object if there was one in the room. All of them, for that matter, actually. But we don't want to do that. But yeah, all with does is it allows you to provide the name of another object, or even an object, a specific instance ID of a particular one if you have one, and do things or run code for that object from inside another object. I can open this out if I wanted to do more stuff into a set of curly braces, just as you do with if statements, but we only want to do the one thing. We just want to change that variable that we have, the score, which is usually 0, and add 5 to it every single time we destroy one of these enemies. Okay, so now I'm just going to plonk obj underscore score into the room. It doesn't really matter what layer we put it on, since it's invisible. And then if we run this, we can see it's really hard to see. I'll zoom in on the video, but there's a 0 at the top middle of the screen. So if I kill some of these, you can see it starts going up, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and there's no other enemies in the game at the moment, so that's as high as it's going to go. That's our top score. We've mastered this game very quickly. Okay, but that's this is the default font you'll see that GameMaker is using, and it's not the prettiest in the world, but that's okay because we can add whatever fonts we like, and that's what we're going to do now. So go ahead and right click in fonts and hit create, and this will bring us back to our workspace, and I'm just going to call it FN. T underscore score, just the same sort of naming convention we've used with every other type of resource we've ever created. Okay, and I'm just gonna pick whatever font, really, it doesn't matter too much. Let's make it nice and big, and yeah, size 24, that's fine. And we also want it to be white instead of black. The black's kind of hard to see on this background, so we're going to make the text white instead. But we don't do that here. You can type anything in here when you're making a font, by the way, as just like a preview of whatever settings, whatever font you've used, so you can kind of see what it looks like and so on and so forth. That size and style. But now that font exists, we just need to reference it in the code. So let's go to, where do we want to go? Object underscore score. Okay, so I'm double click that, just bring me back to this object. And just before I do draw underscore text here, I can say draw set font to fnt underscore score. Okay, that literally as simple as that. Okay, it sets the font to be used to that particular font, and then you can just change that on the fly. Like if we wanted to draw more text in a different font afterwards, we would just run this line of code again, pointing at a different font, and so on. Okay, so it'll set that font so it'll be much bigger and nicer looking now, but we also want to change its color. So I'm going to say so draw set color with the correct spelling to C underscore white. Okay, there's loads of built-in constants for different colors. Okay, there's like C blue, C red, and so on. You can tell they're right because they change color to match. For a full list of those, you can check the documentation, or you can. There's also functions for finding like very exact colors, so you can do like make color RGB and provide specific RGB values if you want a specific color, or hue saturation values, and so on and so forth. But we just want make it simple, plain white, and we have a constant for that, so that's all we're going to use. And that should be it, really. So I'm just going to press F5 now, and we can see at the top of the screen there's a number 0, and it's big and white, and it's still a bit small. We might make it a bit bigger and nicer looking in a later episode, but for now this is pretty much exactly what you want. As you can see, every time we kill one of these, it goes up a bit. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you do simple text drawing. There's a million and one different uses for it. There's lots of other different functions and stuff that control different ways of drawing text.
J'ai pas trop compris à quoi ça servait son truc là.
Fun things for you to explore, but that's just the basics of how you get started. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll catch you guys next time. Hello everybody and welcome back. You've made it all the way to part 6. And then if we run this, we can see, but that's okay because we can add whatever saying. Or I do draw and change that on the fly. Like if we wanted to draw more text in a different font afterwards, we would just run this line of coding. Loads of check the documentation, values in a later episode. But for now, this is pretty much exactly what you want. As you can see, every time we kill one of these, it goes function for you to explore. Hello everybody and welcome back. You've made it all the way to part 6 of our beginner tutorial series. You're doing well. The next part is we're going to be making sounds for the game, okay? Because it's a bit dull and dreary at the moment, so we're going to add some exciting sound effect. Or I say we're going to add one exciting sound effect. When we destroy one of these enemies, they're going to make a little noise. I recorded it myself with my own microphone. It's going to be very exciting. So it's actually really simple. This is going to be a very straightforward tutorial just to show you the very basics of how to get sound working, and also just to add a little bit on top just to show you how you can mix it up a little bit. So we're just going to create a sound effect first of all. So over here we have another type of resources that we've not used yet called sounds. So right click in sounds and hit create. And it'll create a new sound resource. So we're going to call this just exactly the same way we name any new type of resource. I'm going to call it SND underscore, and it's going to be when one of these enemies dies. So I'm going to call it SND underscore death.
SND death.
Okay. And then I'm just going to bring in death.wow. It's just a sound I made earlier. We can listen to it in all its glory. There it is. It's just literally me going the best sound in the world. Okay, so now we've got that sound effect. All we really have to do is use a line of when one of these enemies dies. So I'm going to call it SND underscore death. Okay, and then I'm just going to bring in death.wow. It's just a sound I made earlier. We can listen to it in all its glory. There it is. It's just literally me going the best sound in the world. Okay, so now we've got that sound effect. All it's just
Putain, il se lance pas le truc.
literally me going pew, the best sound in the world. Okay, so now we've got that sound effect. All we really have to do is it's just a sound I made earlier. We can listen to it in all its glory. There it is. It's just literally me going pew, the best sound in the world. Okay, so now we've got that sound effect. All we really have to do is use a line of code to play it, a single line of code. So let's go to our enemy object up here. We've already got the code to check when the object is being destroyed, when its hit points reaches less than or equal to 0, kills the object, changes the score. Just in the middle here, I'm gonna write.
Pourquoi le son marche pas? C'est bizarre. Putain, c'est de la merde ce truc. Quand je mets repeat là, ça marche, et quand je... Bizarre. Putain, c'est bizarre là, ce truc sonore qui marche à moitié là. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'il fait après?
Audio underscore play underscore sound and then open bracket. And you can see it asks us for a few things at the bottom and it asks it's being destroyed when line of code. So let's go to our enemy object up here. We've already got the code to check when the object is being destroyed, when its hit points reaches less than or equal to 0, kills the object, changes the score. Just in the middle here, I'm gonna write audio.
Alors, c'est bizarre là qui va sur objet là. C'est le bruit du tir.
Underscore play underscore sound and then open bracket. And you can see it asks us for a few things at the bottom and it asks us for a sound ID, the priority on that sound, and whether or not that sound is going to loop. Okay, the sound ID is the name we just gave the sound, so SND underscore death, comma. Priority, this determines like if you've got too many sounds competing for attention in a particular sound channel. There's things you can do to manipulate how many sounds can do that with other functions and so on, but we won't need to get into that just yet. But if there's too many sounds competing, this number decides which sounds should be prioritized over others, so which sounds are more important. It's an arbitrary scale. So, like, 1 is obviously takes priority over 0, and 100 takes priority over 1, and so on and so forth. But we don't have any other sounds here, and we don't have anything to prioritize, so I'm just going to put 0 in for this, okay? And for loops, we don't want the sound to loop. We don't want it to go until we stop it. You might want to do that if you're playing background music or something like that, but this is not the case here. So this one's just binary. It's either 0 or false, or 1 or true. So I'm just going to say 0 for false. Okie dokie. So, and that will work. So I'm just going to run the game now. And every time I kill one of these...
Ok, donc bon, quand ils explosent, t'as le bruit.
You get a little noise. Okay, now that was really
Alors,
really simple. So let's see how we can mix this up a little bit. Okay, so at the moment, and this is an easy way to sort of mix up your sound effects, really, just it's a little game design thing in general. Whenever we play that one sound, we play it at the same pitch every time, and it's just and it's really monotonous, and it can get kind of annoying quite quickly. So in order to sort of mix it up and add a bit of variety, what we're going to do is randomize the pitch of that sound just by a little bit, just by a tiny little bit, every single time it happens. So we'll get like, and it just sort of varies it a little bit, okay? What we're going to do for that is I'm going to type audio underscore sound underscore pitch, and open a bracket, and it asks us for a few things at the bottom here. So it asks us for the name of the sound that we want to modify, and that's SND underscore def, and then a pitch value. Okay, so 1 is the default pitch. Okay, that's the standard pitch, so we want to modify it from there by either moving it towards 2 or towards 0, depending on whether it be higher or lower. But we don't want to just set it to a specific value, we want to randomize it. So I'm going to use another function within a function and type random underscore range. Okay, this function, as you can see, it asks at the bottom for 2 values. It allows us to give it 2 numbers, and it'll return a random number including those 2 values. Okay, so I'm going to take a random number between 0.8 and 1.2. Okay, just to subtly vary what the pitch is going to be between and around 1. Okay, close that bracket and then close the bracket on audio sound pitch. Okay, so that will vary the pitch of the noise. It's going to be subtle, so you have to listen quite carefully for it. And just so that we definitely hear the difference, I'm going to open up the room editor and quickly bring back the layer view over here, so we make sure we're pulling these in the right layer instances. Yeah, we got these guys. I'm just going to drag in a bunch more of these dudes. Okay, just fling them everywhere for now. Okay, so we've got a bunch of them in there now. So let's run that, and I'm just going to move. Oh yeah, I forgot we've got that thing that actually kills you now. So let's move over here and start killing these and see the sound effect. I'll shut up so you can sort of hear the difference. So can you see that? Well, you obviously can't see that. Can you hear that? It's a very subtle difference, but I'm sure you can hear it just about there. The pitch alters and randomizes every time we kill one, so there's, and that saves you sorry, that saves you having to record like 100 different sound effects. Okay, just it's a cheap little trick for sort of manipulating the pitch of sounds. It's kind of useful for a lot of things, a lot of sort of generic noises, so like gunfire and jumping sounds or anything that just wants that little extra bit of variety. Okay, so as you can see, there's all sorts of different functions that can help you play around with sounds and music and help you do cool, interesting things with them. And that's the basics of how you start working with it. Hope you've enjoyed this so far, and I'll catch you guys on the next part. Thanks for watching, guys. Hello everybody, welcome back. In this part, we're going to be looking at creating a title.
allez, la vidéo 7, j'essaie de continuer les tutos. Donc vidéo 7 sur 8. On va voir ce que ça donne.
Screen for the game. Basically is an excuse to demonstrate how to move between different rooms. Okay, so I'm going to create a new room for the game, because at the moment we just have our one RM_game where everything takes place. We're going to make a title screen room, and we're going to just show my first game, press enter to start on that screen, I'm going to show you how to move between that room and the room with our game in it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just set up a couple of sprites that we're going to need. We're going to need a new sprite for the background of the title screen room. So I'm going to right click in sprites and hit create and just go to import, and I'm just going to bring in this tile I made earlier, bg underscore tile underscore dark. It's just the exact same as sort of our background tiles, only it's just darker, and we're just going to use that. We're going to tile that across the back.
Alors,
background of the title screen and just sort of scroll it around. Okay, I'm just going to name this SPR underscore dark tile. Okay, and close that, and I'm going to create another sprite, and I'm going to import this. Use that. We're going to tile that across the background of the title screen and just sort of scroll it around. Okay, I'm just going to name this SPR underscore dark tile. Okay, and close that, and I'm going to create another sprite, and I'm going to import, and this one's going to be for our main title screen. It's going to be sort of the object that well, you'll see in a second. It's going to be this, my first game, press enter to start, and just an image of our player character there. And that's what we're going to sort of show over the top. And we're going to just first of all go to the origin drop down box and just select middle center, or if you want you can manually type in 430 by 141. I recommend the drop down box. You can see that puts our origin dead in the middle there, and that's what we're going to need. I'm just going to change the name of the sprite to SPR underscore title screen. Okay, and then close that. Now that we have those sprites, you'll see exactly how they get used very shortly. We're going to create a new room. Okay, so at the moment we have our default room down here. I've changed the name of that to rm underscore game just to match with our naming scheme. And I'm going to create a new room. Click and create just as with any different resource, and I'm going to call it rm underscore title. I suppose makes more sense. Now it's create it under rm underscore game, and GameMaker, when you run your game, it'll always run the game at the top of the room list first. Okay, the order at which you position your games after that doesn't necessarily matter because you can use code and move through them dynamically, but it's important which room is at the very top of your rooms list because that's the one that'll be run first. Now, what we don't want the game room to be run first. We don't want this one running first. We want our title screen to be first. So we're going to click and drag it, and make sure you're careful when you drag, because you don't want to drag it onto rm underscore game. That would make it a child of that room, which is a powerful feature we might cover in another tutorial. But for now, we want to make sure that list line here appears, so that we're definitely gonna, when we let go of it, reposition rm underscore title above rm underscore game. So if I run the game now, just to demonstrate, whereas before we had, it would just run our game and run straight into the game, it'll just bring us into a blank screen. It'll bring us into this empty room that we haven't set up yet. Okay. So we're going to set that up now. I'm just going to go to the background layer that gets created for us by default and actually assign a sprite to that background. I'm going to assign SPR underscore dark tile, the one we made before. Then I'm going to tick horizontal tile, and you can see what that does, and vertical tile, and you can see what that does, and then it's covered our room. If I turn the grid off just with this button here, you can see it's just covered our room in this, and those will continue to tile in every direction. And what I can also do down here where it says horizontal speed and vertical speed is I can actually just give it a speed in a certain direction so that it will scroll automatically. If I type -1 in here, that means it's going to move 1 pixel to the left every single frame of the game. Okay. And one of the cool new features in GameMaker Studio 2 is I can actually see that happening right away. If I just click this little play animation button in the top right, you can see it scrolling around in real time without actually having to compile the game. So you can already get an idea of what that's going to look like. I can like update this. I can like change it on the fly and see immediately how it's going to look. But I think just scrolling one just quietly over to the left like that is quite a good look for that. Okay, and just so you can see that's working, let me just run that and show exactly what we expect to see. Okay, so what we're going to do now is actually allow us to move from this room to this room, okay, where our game actually takes place, and I'll also show our title screen on here. Just going to show my first game, press enter to start, and we're going to do that just using another object. So I'm going to right click in objects and hit create and close the room editor here now. Just move this over to the side so we can see. We'll call this obj underscore title. I'm going to assign the sprite to be this SPR underscore title screen that we made a few minutes ago. Okay, and the first event I'm going to have in this object is just going to be the create event. Okay, let's just scale this up. We're only going to type like 1 line of code per event for this object. So we don't need the code window to be that large. Now get rid of the top line here, and the first thing I'm going to write in is image underscore alpha equals 0. What that does is it sets basically this object to be invisible, more or less. Not quite the same as ticking the visible tag. What this does is sets the alpha of our sprite to be 0, which means it's going to draw every single pixel as completely transparent, so you're not actually going to see anything. Now we can vary that number between 0 and 1. If we set it to 0.5, for example, the image would be like 50% opaque, 50% transparent. And yeah, so we can use that by, and what we're going to do is we're going to move that value from 0 to 1 slowly to just have it fade into the screen when we first start the game. Okay, just the image would be like 50 to be 0. It sets basically this object to be invisible, more or less. Not quite the same as ticking the visible tag. What this does is sets the alpha of our sprite to be 0, which means it's going to draw every single pixel as completely transparent, so you're not actually going to see anything. Now we can vary that number between 0 and 1. If we set it to 0.5, for example, the image would be like 50% opaque, 50% transparent. And yeah, so we can use that by, and what we're going to do is we're going to move that value from 0 to 1 slowly to just have it fade into the screen when we first start the game, okay, just as a
Salut VCD, comment vas-tu?
sort of nice little visual effect. So I'm going to start off by, when we create this object, setting our image alpha to be 0. The other two things I'm actually going to do in here, so I lied, it's actually a couple of lines of code in this one. I'm going to set x to equal room underscore width divided by 2, just so we make sure it's always in the center of the room. and y equals room height. Over to doing the exact same thing on the y coordinate, just so it's going to be half the room width and half the room height, dead center of the screen, okay? And because we set the origin of that sprite to be in the middle, it means that when, you know, it's going to position itself neatly center aligned, okay? So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and add the step event, just the regular step event. Get rid of that. And the first thing, well, the only thing I'm going to type in here is image underscore alpha equals min. Now what min does, you can see I can put a number of different values into this. For every value you give it, it will pick the smallest one, okay, and it will return that. So what I'm going to do is say image underscore alpha plus dead center of the screen, okay? And because we set the origin of that sprite to be in the middle, it means that when, you know, it's going to position itself neatly center aligned, okay? So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and add the step event, just the regular step event. Get rid of that. And the first thing, well, the only thing I'm going to type in here is image underscore alpha equals min. Now what min does, you can see I can put a number of different values into this. For every value you give it, it will pick the smallest one, okay, and it will return that. So what I'm going to do is say image underscore alpha plus 0.02 and then comma or 1. So it's going to return whichever number is smaller. Its current image alpha, which is currently 0 when we make the thing, plus a very small amount, or 1. It's going to take one of those two values, whichever one is smaller. So that means we're basically going to keep increasing our image alpha by 0.02 until it gets to 1 or to be over 1, in which case it'll just set it to 1. It's just a way of increasing a value over time and making sure it doesn't go over a certain amount. You can do the same thing going the other way by using max as well, which, as you might imagine, just does the opposite thing and returns whichever is larger out of two values. But that's just going to slowly increase our image alpha until it hits 1 or 100%, okay? So let's just quickly demonstrate how this works. Let's go into arm underscore title now. Let's quickly bring back the layer view. So and go to instances and drag in obj underscore title. I can put it anywhere because we've made sure in our create event it would automatically put itself in the center. I mean, you could just place it roughly in the center, but I'm going to place it up here just so we can see those lines of code actually working. So now when I run the game, you'll see it just neatly fades in there as opposed to just appearing off the bat. Okay, just a nice little visual effect. Now let's go back to obj underscore title. Let's close this again. And okay, the only thing we want to do now is make it so that when we press the enter key, we actually start the game, okay? So I'm going to add the key up event, and I'll explain why in a second, enter. So the key up event is triggered on the frame when a key is released, okay? So it's not going to start the game the moment we push down on the enter key, when the player may or may not be ready, you know, but it's when they actually release the enter key, that's when the game will start. That's the difference with the key up event rather than the key down or pressed event, okay? Now there's literally one line of code that we need to put in here. It's really, really simple. And this is really the crux of the tutorial. That's all it really comes down to. Room underscore go to underscore next. Okay, that line of code does, you might imagine, it sends you to the next room. So it's going to look to see where it is in the current room order, and it's going to send you to the next room in the list, which is rm_game. What you can do instead is you can use room_goto and then give it a nip, like type in rm_game, type the name of the room that you wish to go to into the function if you want to go to a specific room. There's all sorts of other things like room restart, so you can just like reset the room you're currently in, and so on and so forth. Room go to previous, and various functions like that. But the ones you'll be making the most use of are probably room go to and room go to next for the most part. Okay, and that's really all there is to it. So if I run the game now, and that nicely fades in there, and press enter, you can see it actually starts up. Game, and if I die, the game restarts and we come back to here. Okay, and there you have it. That's how you make a simple functional title screen, and that's how you move between rooms in your game. Hope that's been useful. I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks, guys. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 8. over a longer space of time than just, every single frame of the game. You can do these. So we only actually have one thing we need to put up here, and that's going to be anywhere between underscore not an enemy spawn, an object spawner. Okay, so now that that's in the game. Hello everybody, underscore alpha equals min. Now what min does, you can see I can put a number of different values into this. For every value you give it, it will pick the smallest one, okay, and it will return that. So basically going to keep increasing our image alpha by 0.02 until it gets to 1, or to be over 1, in which case it'll just set it to 1. It's just a way of increasing a value over time and making sure it doesn't go over a certain amount. You can do the same thing going the other way by using max as well, which, as you might imagine, just does the opposite thing and returns whichever is larger out of two values. But that's just going to slowly increase our image alpha until it hits 1 or 100%, okay? So let's just quickly demonstrate how this works. Let's go into arm underscore title now. Let's quickly bring back the layer view. So and go to now in a effect. Now, okay, the only thing we want to do now is make it so that when we press the enter key, we actually start the game. Okay, so I'm going to add the key up event. I'll explain why in a second. Enter. So the key up event is triggered on the frame when a key is released, okay? So it's not going to start the game the moment we push down on the enter key, when the player may or may not be ready, but it's when they actually release the enter key, that's when the game will start. That's the difference with the key up event rather than the key down or pressed event, okay? Now there's literally one line, okay? What that line of code does, you might imagine, it sends you to the next room. So it's going to look to see where it is in the current room order, and it's going to send you to the next room in the list, which is rm underscore game. What you can do instead is you can use room underscore goto and then give it a nip, like type in rm underscore game, type the name of the room that you wish to go to into the function if you want to go to a specific room. There's all sorts of other things like room restart, so you can just like reset the room you're currently in, and so on and so forth. Room go to previous, and various functions like that. But the ones you'll be making the most use of are probably room go to and room go to next for the most part. Okay, and that's really all there is to it. So if I run the game now, and that nicely fades in there, and press enter, you can see it actually starts up our game. And if I die, the game restarts and we come back to here. Okay, and there you have it. That's how you make simple. Call this obj underscore title. I'm going to assign the sprite to be this SPR underscore title screen that we made a few minutes ago. Okay. And the first event I'm going to have in this object is just going to be the create event. Okay, let's just scale this up. We're only going to type like one line of code per event for this object. For alpha equals 0. What that does is it sets for every exam fade into the screen. I'm going to set x to equal room underscore width divided by 2, just so we make sure it's always in the center of the room, and y equals room height over 2, doing the exact same thing with the y coordinate, just so it's going to be half the room width and half the room height dead center of the screen. Okay, and because we set the origin of that sprite to be in the middle, it means that when it's going to position itself neatly center aligned. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and add the step event, just the regular step event. Get rid of that. And the first thing, well, the only thing I'm going to type in here is image underscore alpha equals min. Now what min does, you can see I can put a number of different values into this. For every value you give it, it will pick the smallest one, okay, and it will return that. So what I'm going to do is say image underscore alpha plus 0.
Ok.
Hello everybody and welcome back to part 8. Today we're going to be confronting one of the elephants in the room, and that's the fact that in this room at the moment we still have these 5 enemies who just sort of are spawned here because that's where we placed them, and that's it. Those are the only 5 enemies you get, and the game is kind of over and just sort of hangs here doing nothing the moment you've killed them all. So today we want to implement a spawner that's going to actually spawn these enemy objects all over the place indefinitely, meaning this game can go on forever. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually create a new layer specifically for our enemy instances, because at the moment we just have them on the instances layer mixed in with the player. We want to give them their own specific layer, especially for when we start spawning them in. So I'm going to click here and create a new instance layer. I'm going to rename it enemy layer. And then I'm just going to drag it down to be just sit between instances and the bullets layer. I think that's about where we want it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, before I actually create the spawner that will create the enemies all over the place, is I'm going to create a special enemy instances, because and the game is kind of over and just sort of hangs here doing nothing the moment you've killed them all. So today we want to implement a spawner that's going to actually spawn these enemy objects, putting them in. Create a create. Okay, I'll give us a new object, and I'm just going to call this obj underscore enemy spawn. Okay, so it's going to be a version of the enemy object. I'm going to link it to our enemy spawning them in. So I'm going to click here and create a new instance layer. I'm going to rename it enemy layer. And then I'm just going to drag it down to be just sit between instances and the bullets layer. I think that's about where we want it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, before I actually create the spawner that will create the enemies all over the place, is I'm going to create a special form of our enemy object, and that's going to be a spawning layer. I'm going to rename it enemy layer. And then you've killed them all. So today we want to implement a spawner that's going to actually spawn these enemy objects all over the place indefinitely, meaning this game can go on forever. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually create a new layer specifically for our enemy instances, because at the moment we just have them on the instances layer mixed in with the player. We want to give them their own specific layer, especially for when we start spawning them in. So I'm going to click here and create a new instance layer. I'm going to rename it enemy layer. And then I'm just going to drag it down to be just sit between instances and the bullets layer. I think that's about where we want it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, before I actually create the spawner that will create the enemies all over the place, is I'm going to create a special form of our enemy object, and that's going to be a spawning in version of it. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go to instances layer and just delete these guys because we won't need them anymore. And I'm going to right click in objects and hit create. Okay, I'll give us a new object, and I'm just going to call this obj underscore enemy spawn. Okay, so it's going to be a version of the enemy object. I'm going to link it to our enemy sprite as well. A version of the enemy object that just sort of It starts off really small and sort of pops in, and when it finishes popping in, it turns into an enemy object. The reason we'll have this and spawn this around the room is so that like it gives our player the chance to get out of the way if, say, an enemy just spawns right on top of them, because we're just going to spawn them randomly throughout the room. So we want to make sure if one spawns on top of the player, you don't just instantly die, you can kind of see it and move out of the way. Okay, so let's get rid of the room editor for now. Okay, the first event I'm going to add is just going to be the create event. I'm going to start off this object being super small, just as I said before. So I'm going to type image underscore x scale equals 0.1, and I'm also going to type image underscore y scale equals 0.1. So what that's going to do is it's literally just going to scale down the size of the sprite, the size of the image, to be 1%, not 1%, sorry, 10% of its regular size. Okay, so it's 0.1. It's 0.1 out of 1. You know, it's a tenth of the x scale and a tenth of the y scale. So horizontally it's a tenth and vertically it's a tenth, meaning it just appears as a tiny sprite 10% of its regular size. Okay, next up I'm going to add the step event. Okay, and then let's just move code editor up so we get a good look at this. So now that we've set that image x scale and y scale to be really small, what we want to do is slowly scale them up from 0.1 to be 1 again, which is the default. Okay, so I'm going to type image underscore x scale again equals min, and this is going to be the same approach that we used with the title screen that we used to make it fade in. Min image x scale plus 0.05 or 1. Okay, so whichever is smaller, itself plus 0.05 or 1. Okay, so it's going to either increase itself by 0.5 or it's going to backward push it above 1, in which case it's 1. So we don't go above 1, but we climb slowly towards it. Now we could write the same line again for our y scale, but instead I'm just going to write image y scale equals image x scale, because then it's just going to take whatever value that's got and make it exactly the same. Okay, so it's just a little bit easier. In fact, I've changed my mind. I think that might be a bit too fast. Let's make that 0.02. Okay, and if image x scale equals 1, so if our scale has reached the point where it's 1, so it's its maximum regular size, what we're going to do then is say instance change. Okay, now this is this function, instance change. What instance change does is it swaps one object into another type of object. Okay, so we're going to change from being an obj underscore enemy spawn into being an obj underscore enemy. So I'm going to type obj underscore enemy, because that's the object we want to turn into, and then this flag perform events tells GameMaker whether or not you want the object to perform its create event when you've turned into it, because sometimes you might want to change objects. You don't necessarily want to run the create event again and establish a bunch of variables, but we do want to make sure that the enemy object actually runs its create event when we turn into one. So I'm going to put 1 in there, or I could also write true. In fact, I will. Okay, so now we've done that, let's place a few of these in the game world just so we can see it working. Let's just quickly bring back 1 in there, or I could also write true. In fact, I will. Okay, so now we've done that, let's place a few of these in the game world just so we can see it working. Let's just quickly bring back layer view and go to my enemy layer. Just drag in a couple of those around the place. Okay, and press F5. Okay, and there's the game. And as you can see, yeah, that works exactly as we wanted. They shrink in quite quickly, not too quickly, but just quick enough so that if one appears.
Putain. Quoi? Allez, hop, désolé, j'ai eu le livreur.
The object, the enemy object actually runs its create event when we turn into one. So I'm going to put 1 in there, or I could also write true. In fact, I will. Okay, so now we've done that. Let's place a few of these in the game world just so we can see it working. Let's just quickly bring back layer view and go to my enemy layer. Just drag in a couple of those around the place. Okay, and press F5. Okay, and there's the game. And as you can see, yeah, that works exactly as we wanted. They shrink in very quite. Hello everybody and welcome back. You've made it all the way to part 6 of our beginner. Hello everybody and welcome back to part 5 of our. Hello everyone, welcome to part 4. This time we're going to be looking at creating a background for. Hello everybody and welcome to part 3. But we can. So we're just going to change GameMaker Studio 1.x, where you would have to set a target room speed per room, and that would sort of become your frame rate, right? Here we actually just set a target frame rate for the actual game. So change that. Go. You see images blurring kind of at the edges, especially like if you rotate them or if they're between subpixels and so on, which you'll want to avoid. But if you're using, okay, just from changing those two, middle center, okay, you can see the crosshair move to the right place. Is actually the create event, okay? So whenever an instance of the enemy object is created. And let's just go ahead, I'm just going to click this button, or you can also press F12, that will actually just unfold all of these sort of external docs and windows. You can bring them back individually just by variable, just as we did with points, okay, or the health. But this one at speed in the game, idea of speed, or image underscore. Say we want to add an event for when the bullet object collides all instances of obj look like it, and that's something we'll cover in a second. Do it however you like, but base should really count. Okay, let's close that. Hello everybody and welcome to part 3. Run the how they. So let's create the step event. If, first of all, just asking GameMaker a question. If the following instance underscore exists. Okay, that's a built-in function. You can see it come up there, and you can see here what it's going to ask us for is just the name what instance of what object exists. Okay, so open brackets and define the object that we're looking for, which is obj underscore player. Close that bracket and then close the other bracket we just opened. Okay, so you can see the pairs that we're opening and closing there. And then open and close a pair of curly braces. Okay, so this line of code is very simple. Hello everybody, and specifically for our enemy instances, because at the moment we just have them on the instances layer mixed in with the player. We want to give them their own specific layer, especially for when we start spawning them in. So I'm going to click here and create a new instance layer. I'm going to rename it enemy layer. And then I'm just going to drag it down to be just sit between instances and the bullets layer. I think that's about where we want it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, before I actually create the spawner that will create the enemies all over the place, is I'm going to create a special form of our enemy object, and that's going to be a spawning in version of it. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go to instances layer and just delete these guys because we won't need them anymore. And I'm going to right click in objects and hit create. Okay, I'll give this a new object, and I'm just going to call this obj underscore enemy spawn. Okay, so it's going to be a version of the enemy object. I'm going to link it to our enemy sprite as well. A version of the enemy object that just sort of starts off really small and sort of pops in, and when it finishes popping in, it turns into an enemy object. The reason we'll have this and spawn this around the room is so that like it gives our player the chance to get out of the way if, say, an enemy just spawns right on top of them, because we're just going to spawn them randomly throughout the room. So we want to make sure if one spawns on top of the player, you don't just instantly die, you can kind of see it and move out of the way. Okay, so let's get rid of the room editor for now. Okay, the first event I'm going to add is just going to be the create event. I'm going to start off this object being super small, just as I said before. So I'm going to type image underscore x scale equals 0.1. And I'm also going to type image underscore y scale equals 0.1. So what that's going to do is it's literally just going to scale down the size of the sprite, the size of the image, to be 1%, not 1%, sorry, 10% of its regular size. Okay, so it's 0.1. It's 0.1 out of 1. You know, it's a tenth of the x scale and a tenth of the y scale. So horizontally it's a tenth and vertically it's a tenth, meaning it just appears as a tiny sprite 10% of its regular size. Okay, next up I'm going to add the step event. Okay, and then let's just move code editor up so we get a good look at this. So now that we've set that image x scale and y scale to be really small, what we want to do is slowly scale them up from 0.1 to be 1 again, which is the default. Okay, so I'm going to type image underscore x scale again equals min, and this is going to be the same approach that we used with the title screen that we used to make it fade in. Min image x scale plus 0.05 or 1. Okay, so whichever is smaller, itself plus 0.05 or 1. Okay, so it's going to either increase itself by 0.5 or that would push it above 1, in which case it's 1. So we don't go above 1, but we climb slowly towards it. Now we could write the same line again for our y scale, but instead I'm just going to write image y scale equals image x scale, because then it's just going to take whatever value that's got and make it exactly the same. Okay, so it's just a little bit easier. In fact, I've changed my mind. I think that might be a bit too fast. Let's make that 0.02. Okay, and if image x scale equals 1, so if our scale has reached the point where it's 1, so it's its maximum regular size, what we're going to do then is say instance change. Okay, now this is this function, instance change. What instance change does is it swaps one object into another type of object. Okay, so we're going to change from being an obj underscore enemy spawn into being an obj underscore enemy. So I'm going to type obj underscore enemy, because that's the object we want to turn into, and then this flag perform events tells GameMaker whether or not you want the object to perform its create event when you've turned into it, because sometimes you might want to change objects. You don't necessarily want to run the create event again and establish a bunch of variables, but we do want to make sure that the enemy object actually runs its create event when we turn into one. So I'm going to put 1 in there, or I could also write true. In fact, I will. Okay, so now we've done that, let's place a few of these in the game world just so we can see it working. Let's just quickly bring back layer view and go to my enemy layer. Just drag in a couple of those around the place. Okay, and press F5. Okay, and there's the game. And as you can see, yeah, that works exactly as we wanted. They shrink in quite quickly, not too quickly, but just quick enough so that if one appeared near you, you might be able.
Ok, ça commence à prendre forme.
Move out of the way. And then they turn from just normal objects into our enemy objects, which follow us around and behave how we want them to. Okay? Cool. Okay, so now it's time to actually make our spawner object. So let's right click in objects, hit create, let's get another object. Let's get rid of the room editor, and let's call this obj underscore spawner. Go ahead and add the create event. Let's move the code box and get rid of that line. And type in spawn rate equals 60. Okay, just establishing another simple variable. The word spawn rate now means the number 60 as far as this object is concerned when the game runs, or when the object is created for the first time anyway. And then what I'm going to type is alarm 0 equals spawn rate. Okay, now you see alarms turned green. Let's move the code box. And get rid of that line. And type in spawn rate equals 60. Okay, just establishing another simple variable. The word spawn rate now means the number 60 as far as this object is concerned when the game runs, or when the object is created for the first time anyway. And then what I'm going to type is alarm 0 equals spawn rate. Okay, now you see alarms turned green. Alarms, and that's a square bracket there, by the way, square bracket 0, close square bracket. Alarms are special variables that they tick down from whatever number you give them, so we've given this one the number 60, and they tick down by 1 every single frame of your game until they reach 0, in which case, at which point they actually trigger an event. Okay, so if you go to events and go to alarm, you can see there's 11 alarm events, and we're just using alarm 0, okay, so that's how you reference the different ones. And by setting alarm 0 to 60, 60 frames after we do that, alarm 0, the event, will be triggered. Okay, so let's add this event. So anything we put into here now will be triggered when 60 frames after this instance gets created. And the first thing I'm going to put in here, I'm just going to come down a few lines, is alarm 0 equals spawn rate again at the bottom. So when this alarm goes off, at the end, we're going to put some stuff in here, but once it's done that stuff, at the end it's just going to set itself back to 60, and so it'll keep going in a loop. So every 60 frames of the game, and our game runs at 60 frames a second, so every second of the game, this event will be carried out, okay? So it's unlike the step event, which is carried out every single frame of the game. We're using an alarm here to carry out a loop that occurs over a longer space of time than just, every single frame of the game. You can do these sort of things manually, just using sort of counter variables, which is sort of what we did when we created the shooting mechanics for the player and created a little cooldown in between them. We could have used an alarm for that. It's just a matter of preference, really, and sometimes alarms are more useful for certain things than others, and you'll discover that as you start to code more. So we only actually have one thing we need to put up here, and that's going to be instance _create _ layer. Okay, so we're going to, basically every 60 seconds, we're going to create a new enemy somewhere in the room, okay? And now we just want to create it somewhere random, so we're going to type for our x coordinate, as you can see it's asking for x coordinate, y coordinate, the layer, and the name of the object that we want to make. So for our x coordinate, we're just going to type random, brackets, and then random just returns a random number between 0 and whatever you put in its brackets. So I'm going to type random room _ width, which will give us the width of our current room. And so basically what that means is it's our x coordinate is going to be anywhere between 0 and the max width of our room, so anywhere in the room. And the same for height, I'm going to do random bracket room _ height. Okay. And then for the layer, we made a layer especially for this, so open quotation marks, enemy layer, close quotation marks. And then just the name of the object, which is going to be obj _ enemy spawn. So it's going to create not object enemy, enemy spawn, remember. So it's creating the little ones that grow and become proper ones. And then close the brackets. And that really is all there is to it. Let me widen that out. It's a bit hard to see the whole line there. There it is. Instance create layer, random room width, random room height, enemy layer, obj _ enemy spawn. Okay, and then set the alarm back to 60. And it'll just loop around. The reason I use that variable there, spawn rate, like if I go to create, is mostly so that we could just change this one number to affect the spawn rate. Otherwise we would have to change it here and in here, okay? So if you've got multiple places you're using one number for things, you may as well create a variable for it. Okay, and that's really that. So I'm going to go into arm _ game now and bring back the layer view, and I'm just going to actually get rid of these enemies I placed in because we don't need them anymore. And just by our instances layer, I'm going to drop in not an enemy spawn, an object spawner. Okay, so now that that's in the game, I should be able to just run the game now, and even though there's no enemies in the room to start with, one should spawn every second. Okay, so let's see if it worked. Yep, there's one coming in, There's another one coming in. There's another one. And another one. And another one. And you can see they're starting to just flood the room now. So this kind of feels a bit more like a proper video game. Like there's spawning quite a lot of them now. There's a lot of these to fight. But I mean, you can. Tweak this to your heart's content. Maybe you think they're spawning too quickly, too slowly. Maybe it's mostly so that we could just change this one number to affect the spawn rate. Otherwise, we would have.
C'est bizarre, ça me dit une milliard de no exist, ça existe. Hein.
To change it here and in here, okay? So if you've got multiple places you're using one number for things, you may as well create a variable for it.
Il y a trop d'ennemis quoi.
Okay, and that's really that. So I'm going to go into arm_game now and bring back the layer view, and I'm just going to actually get rid of these enemies I placed in because we don't need them anymore. And just by our instances layer, I'm going to drop in not an enemy spawn, an object spawner. Okay, so now that that's in the game, I should be able to just run the game now, and even though there's no enemies in the room to start with, one should spawn every second. Okay, so let's see if it worked. Yep, there's one coming in, there's another one coming in, there's another one, and another one, and another one. And you can see they're starting to just flood the room now. So this kind of feels a bit more like a proper video game. Like there's spawning quite a lot of them now. There's a lot of these to fight. But I mean, you can tweak this to your heart's content. Maybe you think they're spawning too quickly, too slowly. Maybe you want to make them spawn faster over time. Maybe there's a way for you to expand on this project. Or any number of things. It depends exactly how you want the game to work. But that's how you spawn things dynamically in the room, rather than just having to place them by hand in the room. And that's how you create waves of enemies over time. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found that useful, and I'll catch you guys next time. Cheers, guys.
Après, Epitaph, comment vas-tu? Du coup, j'ai fini de créer le petit jeu là. Putain, je vais te montrer. Merde, j'ai fait déboguer comme un con. Je suis trompé. J'ai tout cassé! Le souci c'est ça en fait, c'est la caméra, tu sais, tant que t'as pas traversé l'écran 2 là. En fait, j'arrive pas à faire que la caméra elle te... Comment dire? C'est dommage parce que leur tuto, tu vois, ils t'apprennent genre à faire ça là, tu vois, un petit jeu comme ça. Mais ils auraient pu aller un peu plus loin du genre, tu vois là par exemple, je peux sortir de la map et continuer de jouer en fait. Ils ont pas mis de limite en fait. Non mais si par exemple là j'approche du bord, en fait s'il y a un mob le long du bord, tu vois, t'as juste un carré quoi. Là en vrai t'as un mec, je me le prends quoi. Merde, j'ai cliqué autre part. Merde. Il va spawner à la figure le mec. Après pour rigoler, le truc que tu peux faire c'est genre tu sais, dès que t'atteins 100 points, t'as plus de... Tu gagnes une vie, genre tu peux te prendre 2 dégâts ou une connerie comme ça, tu vois. Tu vois, par exemple là, je sais pas si tu vois, quand je tue les mecs, genre, quand ils spawnent, tu vois, t'as un espèce d'effet qui pop pas instantanément en fait. Tu vois, il sort, genre il sort du sol et il apparaît, tu vois. Après là, le truc qu'il va falloir que je commence à regarder pour rigoler, ça serait, faudrait que je fasse une copie du... Bon là, j'ai fini. Ça serait, comment dire... Là, le petit projet, il est fini. Ça serait que j'arrête, en fait. Et que genre, je tente de faire plusieurs types de tirs, genre, tu sais, avec la souris ou quoi. Par exemple, je fais un tir rouge, un tir bleu, par exemple. Ou enfin, où je garde ce tir et je rajoute un tir, je change la couleur, par exemple. Et genre, quand je fais le second tir, je fais plus de dégâts, tu sais. Ou genre, un truc de couleur, t'as un ennemi, il est vert, tu fais un tir vert sur sa gueule. Un rouge, tu sais. Enfin, après, il y a plein de possibilités, faut juste connaître le code, quoi. Si tu connais pas le code, t'es bloqué. Mais enfin, ça va, c'est sympa, je trouve, quand même. Là, par exemple, ce que je remettais là, je regardais sur le live, là. Ce que j'étais en train de regarder avant que t'arrives, c'est ça, là. En fait, c'est des jeux que, genre, c'est des jeux qui ont été faits avec ce logiciel, tu vois, il y a des jeux connus, quoi. Il y a des trucs plus ou moins jolis, après ça dépend du... Ça dépend des gens, quoi. Là, t'as vu l'espèce d'effet un peu liquide du truc qui se déplace, l'espèce de verre, là, c'est sympa, ouais. Ah, Undertale, il était fait avec ce logiciel, je savais pas. Ah, c'est sympa, le style graphique, là. Bah, ce jeu, j'y ai jamais joué, faudrait que j'y joue pour tester en gros. Ouais, il est sympa lui, graphiquement aussi. Ah, il est fun lui. Ils ont fait style que c'est un truc arcade et tout. Ah, il y est sur Steam, il est gratuit ce jeu, lol. Waouh, comme il est beau celui-là aussi. Là c'est Death's Gambit. Ce jeu il s'est fait casser à fond. Je voulais le tester mais j'ai pas pu. Ah, Rival OFTR, je savais même pas que ça a été fait avec ce logiciel. Hein. C'est une espèce de Smash Bros. Ouais, y a des jeux connus quand même qui ont fait le truc. Oh, la musique est bien cool. Ah, il a l'air stylé ce jeu là. Ah, ça c'est tellement pris des Tortues Ninja là. Ah, il avait l'air cool lui. C'est le truc avec le mec un peu en mode avec les lunettes et tout là. Ouais. Je laisse ce jeu, je l'ai même pas fini là. En tout cas là, lui là, Katana 0, il a l'air sympa. Ouais, c'est stylé ça. Ah, le jeu de moto là, il a l'air fun. Ah, lui il a l'air sympa là. Desert Child.
Hello everybody, I'm Sean Spalding from Yo-Yo Games, and in this tutorial just enough about the key mechanics of GameMaker so that you can